What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to MKO Pugilism, aka MKO Boxing, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on TikTok, all that good stuff. So let's get into it. I just got finished watching the big fight, and I tell you what, this was, for me, one of the best fights I've seen, certainly this year, over the past couple of years, or however long you want to take it. Definitely in recent times, this is one of the best fights I've seen. Certainly at heavyweight, I don't think I've seen a better fight in recent years. This was incredible, and Daniel Dubois just once again became world champion once again, WBO world champ, and but the way that this fight played out, I'm kind of all over the place because it was just a seesaw battle. It was back and forth. It had blood, it had guts, it had knockdowns. And before the fight, I did pick Daniel Dubois, but to be honest, it was one of those where I could also see so many ways where Fabio Wardley could win it. And Fabio Wardley was kind of the consensus guy that everyone was picking. Most people going into this fight, there weren't many picking Daniel Dubois, but I thought, let's go against the grain here. I can see Daniel Dubois winning this in a firefight, and it was a disastrous start for Daniel Dubois. He got knocked down in the first round, and I think it was not even a minute into the first round. It was one of those shots that it looked kind of like a flash knockdown. He got down with it was like a right hand to the head, kind of top of the head, and it went down from there, but his eyes still looked kind of clear, and he got back to his feet. And the first round was one of those where it was a feeling out one, but you could tell Fabio Wardley, he kind of looked sharper. He kind of looked a little bit more switched on, I would say, bit more sure of himself. Daniel Dubois looked a little bit hesitant, and some of those early rounds he was a little bit hesitant, but when he used his jab and got behind the jab, he boxed a lot better. And as the fight wore on, you had Fabio Wardley looking just a bit more confident, but his thing was, he kind of telegraphs a lot of what he does, Fabio Wardley. So Dubois was able to get a read on it. And Wardley just slightly more active in some of those earlier rounds, and then he got another knockdown a couple of rounds later. So he was, he had the fight by quite a deficit. It was several rounds up, even from early on, before the first half of the fight was even over. He was a good few rounds up, but you could always see Dubois kind of using the straight shots, using the jab and landing the right hand. And although Dubois was behind, it was like he'd get knocked after the second knockdown. He actually started performing a little better after being knocked down. So Dubois showed that mentally he was really on it. He wasn't going to let anything discourage him, and he came on a bit stronger after the second knockdown, and started winning some of the rounds, and he was able to hurt Fabio Wardley on numerous occasions. And as the fight wore on into sort of the second half of the fight, Daniel Dubois really started coming into his own, really started landing some hurtful shots on Fabio Wardley, who would come back with his own shots. But Dubois kind of, I think what worked for him, one factor that I'll talk about was the footwork of Daniel Dubois is quite straightforward. It's quite simple. He kind of jumps, he goes in range, and then he moves back out of range, and it became a real telling factor as we got later into the fight. That moving in and moving out, sort of moving back and forth in straight lines, it really worked a treat on Fabio Wardley, because Fabio Wardley does telegraph his shots a lot of the time, and as Daniel Dubois sort of move in, he'd then move out and make Fabio Wardley miss, occasionally make him pay. But I think when Fabio Wardley missed, he would miss quite big. And when he missed quite big, Daniel Dubois was able to catch him back with shots, and hurtful shots, hard shots. And the fight just kept wearing on. And the later the rounds got, the more success Daniel Dubois was having. The two knockdowns that took place, paled into kind of insignificance as the fight went on, because in those later rounds, Dubois began to take over, but he didn't rush his work. He didn't get sort of overzealous with what he was doing. He was quite composed and, sticking to kind of twos and threes, not big combinations, not sort of swinging away at Fabio Wardley. It was, landing that big right hand and jabs, and those simple shots were his weapons really. The jab and the right hand, those were the weapons. There are a few to the body here and there, but those were the weapons that kind of won him the fight. So yeah, as we got on, the nose of Fabio busted, ripped to shreds. The eye was almost closing of Fabio Wardley. There was a bit of damage on Daniel Dubois, but the eye was almost closing. The referee a few times brought Wardley over to the doctor to try and check him over. He was always insisting he can fight. He's fine. He's fine. He's fine. And then where you could really see that there was absolutely no way back for Wardley was, I'd say, around 9, 10. I think it was the 10th, actually. No, the 10th, where, to be honest, they could have even stopped it in that 10th round, because Wardley, when it was seconds out, ready to go, round 10, Daniel Dubois was fresh. He was off his stool, ready to fight. And Fabio Wardley actually staggered off his stool. Fabio Wardley looked like he was out on his feet before a punch had even been thrown in the 10th round. He really staggered and really wobbled. Like it was a horrible thing to watch, but he was a warrior. He went through that 10th round and he was getting beat up, and he was still trying to throw his own uppercuts and throwing his own shots back, but there wasn't as much on them as there was in previous rounds, and Dubois was just landing at will and just composed, taking his time, picking his shots, and basically giving Wardley a beating, who was trying to fight back but just couldn't do anything. And then he was standing off of Daniel Dubois. And then the end comes in round 11, where Daniel Dubois just kind of lets his hands go, catches Wardley with a right, and just keeps punching, and that incredible right hand, and he made Wardley kind of turn his head, which did happen several times in a fight where Dubois lands a big shot. Wardley was like turning his head, grimacing in pain, still having that warrior mentality to fight on, but he was just grimacing in pain, turning away. You could tell, and that last salvo on the ropes, he didn't actually go down at all in this fight, but Dubois just lands that salvo on the ropes, and you could tell that Wardley was just out of it. There's no way he was going to fight on, and that was it. That's how it ends. And Dubois, world champion again. Congratulations to him. As for what's next, I don't know. There's loads of options out there. I mean, the one fight I don't want to see is him versus Usyk, but I suppose there's other guys out there who we can sort of take on. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and until next time, it's MKO Boxing, over and out.